Alright, so now we're on number 21. This is S equals 4 over 3 pi sine 3t plus 4 over 5 pi cosine 5t. So at first glance, this one looks a little complicated because of different arguments or parameters. Those are what's inside your parentheses, and one of them says 3 pi and the other says 5 pi. But we basically just go about this the same way as before, but we do have to use our product rule and chain rule. So basically, for our derivative, or s prime, we need this, which is a constant, 4 over 3 pi times the derivative of sine of 3t, which is really cosine 3t, and then taking the derivative of the inside would be 3. I'm going to do an extra set of parentheses around it because I want to make sure you know that that should not change to 9t. The 3 actually is going to end up going in front. And then the other part, we have 4 over 5 pi. Then the derivative of cosine is negative sine, so I'm just going to cross this out and make it a minus sine 5t, and then I'll put a parenthesis around this whole thing, and we got 5 there. So that looks like your first step. And then this 3 cancels with this 3, and this 5 cancels with that 5. So we end up with 4 over pi cosine. 4 over pi would be common in both of these things. So that'll be my greatest common factor. 4 over pi cosine 3t minus sine 5t. Because you had the same thing with 4 over pi for both of them, we factored it out like your greatest common factor. So that's going to be our answer. Any questions about that? Okay. So then 25. This one we have y equal x squared sine to the 4th x plus x cosine to the negative 2 of x. I'm going to break this up into parts because this one, you got the product rule you got here, you got the product rule here also. So I'm going to call this U, I'm going to call this V. And so for U prime, we're going to apply our product rule. So that in itself would have this is U, this is V. I don't know if you really want to put that. because it's the same variables. You could call it U2 and V2 if you want, or whatever. Okay, so for U prime, we need our product rules. So we need our derivative of, well, we basically need U2 times V2 prime plus V2 times U2 prime. Or basically just think of it as this one times the derivative of that. So x squared times the derivative of sine to the fourth, which would be 4 sine, the derivative of sine would be cosine. For cosine let me just start over because it's so close. X squared 4 cosine. The derivative of sine to the fourth would be 4 cosine to the fourth x. We make that a 3. Dadgummit. We always decrease a power on that. So this is 4 cosine cubed x. 4 cosine cubed x. Let me pause this for a moment. I did this last year and I have it here. I'm trying to interpret it. Let me pause this. Okay. What was weird was this is like number 29 in the answer book. And what they have is y equal x squared sine to the fourth x plus x cosine negative 2 x, which leads to the derivative of y with respect to x, or dy dx, is x squared times the derivative with respect to x of sine to the fourth x plus sine to the fourth x times the derivative with respect to x of x squared. So there's your product rule applied to this. You got your two terms right there. Then plus x times the derivative with respect to x of cosine negative 2 x plus cosine negative 2 x times the derivative with respect to x of x. Okay, so they didn't even bother with this u and u2 thing. That might have actually confused y'all, so that's why I'm starting, from that way. So we're basically taking our first term times the derivative of the second plus the second term times the derivative of the first. So that's that part, plus this term times the derivative of this one, plus this term times the derivative of that one. Do y'all follow that? Yeah. Okay. So now, why did they do that? Okay, that first step made sense. And then from there, they're saying this is x squared. The derivative of sine to the fourth would be 4 sine cubed. 4 sine cubed x. Then you take your derivative of sine, which is cosine. And then plus sine to the fourth x. Then the derivative of x squared is 2x. So we have 2x. Then for this part, we've got plus x times the derivative of cosine -2. X would be -2 cosine -3 x. Then we'd need our derivative of cosine, which is negative sine. Then for this last term, we do plus cosine to the -2 x, and then the derivative of x is 1, so that's just going to be a times 1. Okay, so we basically said bring down the x squared. You make this 4 go in front, you decrease a power, then the derivative of sine is cosine. And on this one, we brought down to the sine to the fourth, then the derivative of x squared is 2x. And then we did this one and made it -2 cosine -3, then the derivative of cosine is negative sine, and then brought this one down and have 1. Okay, so then we just rewrite this with the 4 in front, and then we have sine x squared, 4x squared, then we have sine cubed x, then we have cosine x, so that's from that part, plus 2x times sine to the fourth plus, okay, now here's a negative times a negative, so that's a positive, 2x sine x, then cosine to the -3 x, and then plus cosine to the -2 of x. So then that's your answer. So the reason why this doesn't turn into 2x times 2 is because all we're doing is the derivative of x squared, which is 2x, and you don't have to do the chain rule to just x squared. So that's why this is alright. Any questions about those? Alright, that's 25. For whatever reason, in Math Excel, they just rearrange the terms a little bit, but that's equivalent. Okay, 29. So this one, we have our y equals 4x plus 3 to the fourth times x plus 1 to the minus 3. So this one we do our dy dx. We're going to take our first term, just copy it down, 4x plus 3 to the fourth. Then we're going to take our derivative of this part, which is negative 3, we need that in parentheses, times x plus 1 to the minus 4. And then we take our derivative of x, which is 1. So there's that part. Plus this part is x plus 1 to the minus 3. So just copying that one down. Then take your derivative of this, which would be 4 times this to the third. 4 times 4x plus 3 to the third. Then you take your derivative of 4x, which is 4. Okay, so that's what we have up to this point. Then we need to just make it look more reasonable, like with the exponents and the numbers combining. So the negative 3 goes on top. The 4x plus 3 to the fourth goes on top. This was a x plus 1 to the minus 4, so that's going to go on bottom. So x plus 1 to the fourth. By putting it on the bottom, it's now positive, and we didn't have to do anything with the 1. Then for this part, we need a plus sign. 4 times 4 is 16. Then we put this stuff, 4x plus 3 cubed. And then we put this stuff, which is x plus 1 cubed. So what they want you to do now is they want a common denominator of x plus 1 to the fourth, because you already have 1 to the third. So we have negative 3, 4x plus 3 to the fourth, plus 16 times 4x plus 3 cubed. Now we need our extra x plus 1, and then we have x plus 1 to the fourth. Alright, this is really getting to where they're factoring out a bunch of things like reinforcing algebra concepts. Like this term and this term both have 4x plus 3 cubed, so we want to factor out 4x plus 3 cubed from these two terms, because that's your GCF. So we have 4x plus 3 cubed. Then we have our parentheses, negative 3 times one of those, plus 16. Then this was already factored out, so we just need the times x plus 1. So that's 16x plus 16 over x plus 1 to the 4th. Any questions on there? Okay, now we're going to keep our top and bottom the same and then combine these. So this will be 4x plus 3 cubed. The bottom part would be x plus 1 to the 4th. And then negative 12x plus 16x is 4x. Then this is negative 9 plus 16 is 7. So that's our simplest answer. So again, we needed a common denominator, then we needed to factor out our GCF, and then distribute and combine terms. Okay. All right. 33. Okay, this one we have f of x is equal to the square root 7 plus x secant x. So our first step would be change this to the half power. And on this one, we're going to have to use our power chain rule, which is the derivative with respect to x of u to the n equals nu to the n minus 1, and then du dx. Okay, so to do our derivative, we take half and then put that, 7 plus x secant x, lower a power, so we get negative a half. So that's kind of like our start. Then the derivative of 7 is just 0, so that part doesn't matter. But this part, to get this part, that's the complicated part, because we got to use the product rule right there. So we basically take x times the derivative of secant, which is secant tangent, plus secant times 1, basically, because the derivative of x is 1. So then this just gets rewritten with the 2 on bottom, with the 7, this part on bottom, but with the square root 7 plus x secant x, and this stuff on top, x secant x tangent x plus secant x. Okay, then our last one for this lesson is number 37. We have r equal to sine theta squared cosine of 2 theta. So this one we're going to use our product rule. So we're going to take our first term, which is sine theta squared, times our derivative of this one, which will be negative sine 2 theta. Then we're going to need a 2, which is going to go in front, basically. So I added an extra parentheses. I can see some people right there accidentally changing it to 4 theta, and so don't do that. Make sure you do an extra parentheses, or just put the 2 in front. So we have our first term times this, which is really negative 2 sine theta, plus, okay, I need to close this one, plus our second term, which is cosine 2 theta, times the derivative of sine theta squared. So we would bring the 2 in front. No, I don't need that right there. The 2 in front. And then derivative of sine is cosine theta squared. And then the derivative of theta squared would be 2 theta. Okay, take this term. Looks like I have an extra 2. Okay, we have this term, then we take our derivative of sine theta, which is cosine theta, then we take this. Yeah, this 2 right there is not supposed to be there. My bad. Okay, and then we just rearrange things so it's -2 in front, then sine theta squared, then sine 2 theta, then plus 2 theta, cosine 2 theta, cosine theta squared. And that's your answer. Okay, so that's the end of that lesson. I'll give you all some time to work on the Math Excel for that tomorrow.